Whew, it's been a hot minute since my last video. If there's one thing true in this life, it's that life happens. Hello everyone, welcome back to Bike Like a Dog. Be sure to like and subscribe before you leave today. You may notice in this video I'm not on my Ibex 450, nor am I on the CRF 250L. Kind of hard to tell from this viewpoint, but I'm riding my son's Ninja 500. This was an opportunity to try out my new backpack mount, and to be honest, I'm not really sure I'm all that crazy about the resulting video, but it's what I have. Apologies for not having videos since the end of the year, but as I stated in the opening, life happens. And life happening is part of what resulted in me being on my son's Ninja 500 for this video. Look, okay, at the end of the year, we went on our standard ski/snowboarding trip. No, nothing spectacular happened on that trip. But we came home, resumed our normal activities. My son went back to Athens to start classes at Georgia. My daughter went back to her high school. We had their year-end sports banquet for cheerleading and stuff like that. Normal stuff, right? Normal. Then we had a major winter storm come through. Winter Storm Fern. F-E-R-N, Fern. Anyone on the East Coast knows what I'm talking about, while those on the West Coast or Midways again may have heard about it but didn't pay much attention, and those outside of the U.S. probably didn't know about it at all. Just to kind of give an overview, winter storms like Fern can be particularly devastating because they can be a lot of freezing rain, especially here in the South. That's what we usually get in these kinds of things. And freezing rains where the precipitation falls as a liquid and then freezes on contact. Contact with your car, the street, the power lines, the trees, or basically anything that's sitting still. Now, for deciduous trees that lose their leaves in the fall, that's not a huge problem because they're used to having extra weight and, having ice on them instead of leaves isn't that big a deal. Pine trees, on the other hand, which we have a lot of in the South, that's a problem because every one of those needles gets coated with like a 1/4 inch of ice, and that is tons of ice on a tree. And what happens is those trees, because they're carrying so much ice, they'll start bending. And unlike snow, where, if a limb starts bending or the tree starts bending, the snow slides off, right? Not with freezing rain, because the ice is actually frozen to those needles, and it's not coming off until it melts. So they just keep getting more and more coated with more and more ice, and they start getting beyond the point of where they can bend enough, and branches start breaking. Huge branches the size of my leg, entire trees will be bent over so far that literally the tip of the tree, the top of the tree is pointing at the ground, and it's not long before something has to give. They either uproot or they break, and obviously when they break, they fall on top of things like cars, houses, power lines, things like that. Now, when I was in high school, we had this type of storm come through. And I remember sitting there for the first couple of nights and hearing what sounded like gunshots just every 20 minutes or so, where trees were breaking. And we lived on about, 1/2 to 3/4 of an acre, and I think we lost about 8 or 10 trees. My grandparents had several acres of property, and they lost well over 25 trees. And that doesn't even include all the branches and everything that are breaking off the trees that didn't break or fall down. The place literally looks like a war zone. It looks like a tornado has come through. I mean, it's really just devastation. And the other part was we would see transformers in the night. It looked like fireworks because they're just exploding and sending off flashes of light. And in that storm, we lost our power late Sunday night, and it wasn't restored until late Thursday night. So we were 4 complete days without any power at all. Now, fortunately, we had a natural gas space heater in our den, so we kind of holed up in that room for warmth. And we also had a gas water heater, which meant that we could go take a shower, a hot shower, and the hot water and steam would heat up the bathroom. It would be nice. But we had no way to cook because our stove was electric. Fortunately, we lived next door to my grandparents who had a gas stove. And so we were able to go next door, and my grandmother would cook food. And she cooked a lot of it because they had a whole freezer full of vegetables. And, I could go into a whole explanation as to why, but just suffice it to say that my mom was born in the early part of the Great Depression, and they learned how to, put away, can, and freeze food and stuff during the summer so that you'd have it all winter. So they were afraid it was going to thaw out. We ate like kings that week. Okay, so fast forward to 2026 and Winter Storm Fern. Now, the county where we live was actually just outside of the warning area. Literally, the counties bordering us to the north and to the east were all in the warning zone. But we were pretty much in the clear. My son, on the other hand, was in Athens at the University of Georgia, and it was squarely in the warning area. And not only that, but he was renting an all-electric house. Now, I know the infrastructure in Athens. There's a lot of above-ground power lines and everything. Even though the ones in his neighborhood is a newer neighborhood and they're underground, the stuff feeding into the neighborhood is above ground. So I was like, yeah, they are ripe for the same type of situation that we had when I was in high school. I checked online, various stores in the area to see if there were any generators that, I could purchase, he could go pick up. But, of course, they were all sold out. I was able to go to Home Depot here and buy one. And so on the Saturday when the storm was hitting Saturday night, I drove 2 hours up to his house to drop off the generator for him, along with an electric space heater, a bunch of electrical cords, a couple of 5-gallon cans and stuff like that, so that they'd be all set up. And then I drove my 2 hours back home, and we settled in for a few days. The next day, my wife broke her kneecap. And no, it wasn't because of the ice storm. That would have been so much less embarrassing. But she was simply walking through our basement and tripped. She landed squarely on her kneecap, and it broke into 2 pieces. That kind of altered our plans for the next week or two. Urgent care, doctor follow-ups. She's learning to use crutches. I'm having to be her caregiver, bring her ice and everything else, meals, as well as take care of all the stuff that she normally does around the house and everything. So yeah, that kind of threw a wrinkle into stuff for what I had planned for that week. And then so we make it through that week and kind of get back to at least it's a new routine, but at least it's kind of a normal routine now. And as I'm finishing up my coffee on Monday morning, I get a text from my son in Athens showing a picture of him sitting on a gym floor with his legs stretched out in front of him, propped up. He tells me his knee is hurt and he cannot walk on it. So I pack up the car with a set of crutches and immobilizer. You know, it's funny. We have 3 sets of crutches. I mean, it's just amazing. Anyway, I put all this stuff into the car. I also put my motorcycle in the car and I drive to Athens. I had to include my motorcycle gear because he had ridden the Ninja to class that morning. And that meant that his bike was still sitting in the school parking lot. Since none of his roommates can ride, I had to take his bike back to his class, back to his house. Anyway, took him to orthopedic urgent care. X-rays are negative, but the ligament was there, the knee was loose. Long story short, turns out he blew out his ACL. 6 to 9 month recovery. But I think it's like 4 to 6 weeks before you can even walk without a brace after surgery. And we're still waiting to find out when that surgery is going to be scheduled. I'm not bringing this up for sympathy or anything. That's not my point. My point is, life happens. 2 months ago, everything was completely normal. And now we're in a situation where my wife and my son's lives they've just been upended completely. So, what does this have to do with the price of eggs in China, right? Accidents happen. That's why they're called accidents. Your life can change in an instant. In this case, both my wife and son were involved in very low-risk activities. Walking, playing volleyball. Nobody would have suggested they needed to gear up for a walk through the basement or playing a game of volleyball. On the other hand, motorcycling, by its very nature, is considered a high-risk activity. I mean, and yet you hear the argument from people who say, "Oh, I've been riding 35 years, I've never had an accident." Or, "I've ridden that road hundreds of times, never had an issue." My wife has been walking for over 50 years and never had an issue. Not so much as a sprained ankle. She's never had a sprain, never had a break. But all it took was one misstep for her to trip and break her knee. Unfortunately, she was going pretty slow at the time. My son has played volleyball hundreds of times. But all it took was for him to come down on his foot slightly wrong one time. And now to try to figure out how to put a bow on this. I'm not saying you got to wear all gear all the time. What I am saying is we need to analyze our risk. For example, I live right behind a shopping center where there's a gas station and a place you can wash your car. Or in my case, motorcycle. If I'm simply going over there to put gas in the bike and come back or give it a quick wash, I'm not going to fully gear up. It's maybe a quarter mile. And I'm not even on a road for more than maybe half of it with a 30 mile per hour maximum. Grass in between the lanes, a grass divider between the lanes of traffic. I'm in more danger in the parking lot than I am on the road leading to it. Now, I wear my helmet because it's required by law, but I don't worry too much about the other stuff for those trips. When I went to pick up the Ninja for my son, I knew that I was just going to take it 3 miles from campus back to his house. Now, as a graduate from the University of Georgia, I'm familiar with the campus and the route that I would be taking and the traffic and all that kind of stuff. I didn't take my airbag vest. I didn't even put it in the car. Now I was wearing my boots, pair of REV'IT riding jeans, my REV'IT mesh armored jacket, winter gloves, and a helmet. I was also wearing a mid-layer under my mesh jacket because I don't have winter riding gear. It doesn't get here cold enough here for long enough here to get that kind of expense when I can just throw in a mid-layer and be fine. But anyway, it was 42 degrees. And that was fine. That was plenty. Didn't need my airbag for the 3-mile ride. But I needed to put on a jacket and jeans and everything for the temperature, if nothing else. Meanwhile, I was riding up to Woolly Cycles in Marietta last Saturday for an event. That's about an hour and a half ride for me. And it's on some really busy roads, bad traffic, highways that I'm not familiar with. So yeah, I had on my airbag and everything else. I was fully ATGAT. If you're not familiar with the term ATGAT, it's ATTGATT. All the gear, all the time. I took a generator to my son so that he would be prepared if power went out. Now, it turned out he didn't need it. Power never went out. He still has that generator. We're not out of winter yet. We've been known to have ice storms in late February or March. But because he had a generator, He was much more at ease with the oncoming weather. He didn't worry as much about what if the power goes out. And what was funny was, as we were unloading it, there were a couple of girls across the way that were like, y'all have a generator? Yeah, man, the power goes out. We're coming to your house. Anyway, he didn't worry about it as much, and we didn't worry as much about him because we knew that he was prepared now. You know, we didn't have to worry about it. So we have to weigh our risks. The most important for us, the most important part is that we recognize our risks, right? Riding a motorcycle is not like driving a car. I can go jump in my car, I'm instantly surrounded by a steel cage, which itself is surrounded by crumple zones. Inside that cage, I have airbags in front of me, to the side of me, and if there's an impact, they're going to be protecting me. I got a seat belt on top of that, and shoulder harness to help restrain me and protect me from injury. When we get in a car, we're essentially putting on a very complex suit of armor. We don't have that luxury on a bike. We may have some rider aids that make our bikes a little more forgiving, you know, ABS, traction control, but in the event of an accident, we are completely unprotected. Unlike a car where simply being in it is protection, the motorcycle provides us with zero protection. Yet we're going at the same speeds, in the same traffic, amongst the same distracted drivers, encountering the same road hazards. In fact, road hazards are worse for us because where a patch of gravel isn't a big deal for a four-wheeler, it can be the difference between staying upright and sliding out of control on a motorcycle. The point is, it only takes one moment, one time. That moment may not come for 50 years, as in the case of my wife walking through the basement, or it could be the next time you go out. We can't control life. Life happens. I encourage everyone to start taking a cold look at the risks you take on a motorcycle. If that moment happens, are you prepared? If not, what will it take to be prepared? And recognize that being prepared can mean a number of things. You could take a riding class to become more prepared for various riding situations you might find yourself in. That would reduce risk. You could wear more gear when you're undergoing a riskier ride versus when you're doing less risk, like when I go fill up the tank with gas or go wash my bike. The main thing is be aware of the risk. That's the only way that you can be prepared. All right, that's all I have this time. Y'all be careful out there, be safe, and we'll see you the next time. Be sure to like and subscribe. So long, y'all.